It's good to be with you today. I don't know if it's the top of the hour yet, and I actually don't have any idea what to say today. I was out front of my friend's house, but the traffic was so loud in the early morning. I came out back here and decided to have the scenery in the backyard be the environment of the conversation. All of us in our lifetime, whether have lost a beloved, whether a human or otherwise, whether we've lost a life that we loved, whether we lost our capacity, our physical capacity, bad shoulder, risk of losing a home. All of us human beings confront loss. It's probably our greatest weakness. We surround ourselves with doing and accumulation of wealth or property or gadgets or calendars. But there's this phenomenon of physicality that includes loss, empty nest syndrome when our kids leave for college. And sometimes it's living with someone we don't really want to live with anymore, or we find it painful to live with them. One of the results of having COVID for me is I have a raspy voice. There are times where I don't breathe very well, and it's part of what I'm sorting out with my own physicalness. So I really sat here this morning before, when I got up, the sun was blood red. It was just this blood red ball in the sky. And I'm in Park City, near Salt Lake City, Utah, and there are no forest fires around here. But there was that blood red sun. I'm hesitant. I noticed this morning to speak. The blood red sun felt both comforting and ominous. Last night, there was a pretty cool, spontaneous live video that our governor in California made out in the beautiful redwood trees and the forests of California that are burning madly. And he said that I almost fainted. He said there'd been 11,000 lightning strikes. That had been what had started all these forest fires that are raging all over California and Colorado right now. 11,000 lightning strikes. Kind of stops you in your tracks. I've heard, I don't know when the timing is, and I don't know if I'm past the event, but that Ireland is getting storms that is kind of in the wake of storms that in my time in Ireland for so many years didn't have. In fact, I was in Ireland the first big snowstorm they had around, can't remember if it was Cork or Shannon or Galway, I can't remember, but I do, around in Kerry. And it was so fascinating because they didn't have snow shovels. They didn't have the gear to get the snow off the road. And then it iced up. We couldn't leave where we were staying. And the boys came and actually put an electric heater in our attic to keep the pipes from freezing. And we had no heat because they weren't used to that drop in heat. And we were around a fire, all of us in our sleeping bags. Diane, my friend, I just left, and her daughter, and me and my son. And we were pretty much living between the fireplace and wrapped up for the kitchen. Then there's a hot tub, and I spent time in that too. And then there was basically a land hurricane in Iowa that flattened thousands and thousands of acres of soybean crops. And there's probably, for those of you watching, it'd be great if you posted where weather is active in a way that's unnerving, would be the way to put it, in the different parts of the world. But I've really done a lot of thinking about this. I'm the kind of person that gets out in front of something and meets it at the gate. But things since the beginning of 2020 are coming at us so fast. It's not so easy to meet it at the gate. It is upon us. And then it's upon us. And then it's upon us. So I realized how maybe effective in a way that might not be as valuable as we might think. Just a query. How effective we are at giving context to things, or reason, or doing something that makes us feel like we're affecting something, and not that we aren't. Just that underneath that is what do we do when we can't do anything about anything? What if we are caught in something upon us? What are the, I don't know if it's the actions, or what is the movement of that, I would say. What is the movement of that? And I was thinking particularly of one of my friends who's a beautiful Arabic lady, Fatima. And she was in the bombings at the banks of I can't remember where it is now. It's the holy mountain that Moses went up on to get the Ten Commandments. I can't remember the mountain right now, but there's huge fighting in the streets, and she wrote me privately about how terrifying it was to see people terrified, and that there are these reactions that are almost embarrassing because they can't do anything about the reaction. They can only run or hide or pray, or that kind of stark terror. So truthfully, if you want to get off this particular Facebook Live, I could completely understand. But you see, I'm a prophetess, and I'm a seer, and I'm a facilitator of consciousness. And I don't get to shy away. I get to live it. I get to live it, whether it's me living it or whether it's the collective living it or whether it's a friend living it. It's what cellular empathy is. So I just thought this morning we'd just give it some space, not try to solve it, not try to fix it, be in prayer but not necessarily hide in it. Not hide, actually, would be what I would like to say. Because that's what this space is. This is an hour in an address, a virtual address, that isn't like the talks I do, and it's not a solution-based teaching moment, hopefully for any of us. It's a place to come, to be safe, confronting things that are upon us. And I understand there's always the hope it'll never be us. But with all the shifts and changes, all the chaotic frequencies of the earth, who's now basically rocking and rolling in a very different tenor of engagement than any of us have experienced in our lifetime. I want to start there. The earth is engaging in a balancing of her ecological system that in our lifetime we have not experienced. We have experienced gradual changes and gradual, things that are different. Let me try to give you an example that isn't something we commonly discuss or even think about. So the closer I get to going back to where my dog Lily and I lived, the more horrific it is. Terrifying and gut-wrenching. Really fearful to walk into the familiarity, like everywhere, in my 24/7 beloved. But I can't hide from it. So it's up to me, even in the embarrassment. Said a big blue jay fly in front of me. Even in the embarrassment of not being rock solid. Remember our need to put on a good face, be a good soldier. Don't let it show how something bothers you. But the thing that I'm most fascinated by in the midst of it, because I'm very clear my experience is normal, loss is gut-wrenching. I think that's what I want to say. That some things are just plain gut-wrenching. They just are. But how good are we at being with ourselves and each other when we are in those experiences? This is a very important conversation, more important than you could possibly imagine. Because as our earth destabilizes, in other words, ceases to be as unilaterally friendly, in the sense of wherever we live has a stability to it. The earth is very friendly, just under her own terms. as this pandemic, the medical one that is sweeping the world, continues to govern a lot of people's lives, this, our gut is going to get really active. We're going to be very, very stirred by unknown empathic experiences, not knowing where they're coming from or not knowing how we'll be. But it's really remarkable because it's changing the human psyche. That's really the point, the point I wanted to make this morning. It's as we're losing our ground as we've known it. So I just decided to take this morning, even at the risk of people think I'm predicting a premonition, which I am actually, and but I really organized this space on purpose. Because, you know, so many people who know me don't know how to be with me in my loss. When I had terminal cancer, people didn't know how to be with me. When we're down and out, people don't know how to be with us. We don't know how to be with each other's cries and sadnesses and losses. Some do. But it's so painful to see someone we love in pain that we just don't know what to do with ourselves because we can't help. We can't really help them. So back in 2017, I was looking at what would be the ways of being as we move into these times, these physically odd times. In other words, secular, human odd times. And just going back to the book, A Language of Creation, that we can't really, we've got to move into a being with another, not for them or against them, not being there for them, because we don't know how to do that. But we can be there with them. And I can be here with you. And I can risk because I love you. I don't have to know you. You're a human being. What's there not to love? As a mystic, a seer, and a prophetess, however, this is my territory. This is the part of the human spectrum I am charged with caring for. And we are in between worlds. And more over the next while, we will experience ourselves being more and more in between worlds. What does that mean? Not quite knowing where to put our foot down, not quite knowing where the ground is solid under our feet, seeing things we put together with such impeccability coming apart, just sort of glassy-eyed at times, or just standing outside the door not knowing where to go. Odd, strange anomalies of the human psyche will be upon us. Not quite knowing what to do or how to be. Not really knowing how to fix something or stabilize ourselves in such a way that we don't have these murmurings, these gut murmurings of instability rise up within us. I just wanted to give it a place this morning. this part of us that we don't make public, that we don't let people know is going on. Because there's this sense of wrongness to it, when it's not. There's no wrongness to it at all. But here's what I've discovered, and here's what I would like to transmit this morning. I have had 3 major losses in my life. 2 children, all who had a very short time with me, and Lily, my companion, who spent 15 years with me. 15 years is harder to get over than shorter periods of time, because it covered a lot of my life, a lot of the best part of my life. So it isn't that I am not familiar with loss and grief, because I am. I had a terminal cancer. Facing death, thinking you're going to die, stops you cold, freezes you, dead in your tracks. You just sit there staring, frozen, in horror. Why am I bringing this up this morning? You know? Because we're an empathic creature. We are a one-soul creature. We are a shared consciousness. We need to get with this. We need to make room for being afraid. We need to make room for uncertainty. We need to make room for a loss of safety as an experience, not necessarily as a physical truth. We need to sit down with ourselves about this. And then we need to see who we can reach out, whose hand we can reach out and grab. One of them is mine, for sure. I did 3 consults yesterday, and one of the people was just shocked in the midst of my own grieving and the challenge of that I was doing consults. But that's erroneous, incorrect thinking, because there's only to reach out my hand to another, and for them, if they can, to reach out their hand to me. Being alone when you're unnerved, like a lot of us are players, we take on projects. I take on humankind as my project. You know, others take on projects of development, of their work, or of something they're committed to. But where do they go when they're not stable? And with the psychological paradigm we've been born into, something's wrong with you. Wrong with you or not, I'm fine. I'm okay, but life's good. How are you? There's no room for, I don't know, today I don't know if I even can make it to the end of the day. Then there's all these fearful thinking of, oh my God, they're going to do something to themselves, or oh, they're weak, or we've really screwed up this part of being human. We haven't given room for our own humanity. I've really been having more trouble than I've been having the last 2 weeks to yesterday to today have been brutal. And so I finally wrote Saima, because I need her to be with me. And I just said to her, you know, because today's the 3rd week since Lily passed over, and And I just wrote and told her what happened, and that I just was emotionally in turmoil. Can't get rid of the shock in my system and the gut-wrenching loss. And she wrote back the most beautiful thing. I meant to have it where I could see it. If I sent it to some of you, if you could put it up on the comments. She basically said that she couldn't imagine. She really got the ache of a connection that was so physical, such a presence for 15 years, she said, how hard that must be for you. That constant capacity to love and be loved freely. And that's the truth. And when she put it in that perspective, she was just being with me. But when she put it in that perspective, it made sense. The human beings were rising into a loss we've been experiencing for a very long time. The loss to be deeply connected to one another, to love and be loved freely. And I look back on my 3 losses. One was having to give my child away when he was only 5 days old, because my mother was coming after me to take him, and you would not have wanted to be raised by my mother, who was a violent alcoholic. But in those moments, those 5 days, that child and I, we were so connected, and we could love and be loved freely. And then Jeremy, my beloved Jeremy, my boy, my second boy, he was very much like a lily. He just loved unconditionally. He was not even like a normal child. When he was in Sunday school or daycare, whatever it was, he hadn't spoken since he was born. He heard himself speak, and he stopped speaking. Then he was, I think, about 2.5 or 3, and he was sitting in daycare, and his first words to his teacher, he said some things to me, was, "You spelled her name wrong." A full sentence. Shocked everybody out of 100 years growth. And he was just a visitor. He came to make sure that I was secure on my own path of transcendency, and that I was able for what I had come to earth on behalf of. Love. I'd come to earth on behalf of love. The hardest thing we ever take on. And you know what? I don't know if he'll come any closer. If he does, I'll turn the camera. I have a visitor, a tiny, tiny, tiny little squirrel. I'm not sure he's a squirrel. Something in that category. He's staring at me, but he keeps disappearing. And until he's closer, I won't do it. I won't try to move the camera. So love and loss go together. They do. Sorry. It's how the physical and non-physical world works. We get this brief moment in time to be physically together. And I knew, yeah, I know. Will you come say hi to everybody, or are you just going to yell at me? Huh? He's so cute. He gets out on the outer branch. He's swinging on branches. I don't know if you can hear him. Anyway, I am the object of his affection right at the moment. See, that's how it works. Creation always finds a way. Yeah, hi. You going to come out here where I can show you to them? Hold on, we're going to try. Okay, let's see. All right, hold on a second. See if I can, see if he'll come out. Let's see. Okay, everybody hold on. Let's see if I can move around to find it. Sorry, there he is. See him? There he is. Our visitor. Come on, move. He's staring at you. You'll see a little brown bot. There he is. You can see him. Always creation. Always something letting you know you belong to existence. Always letting you know that this world was made for you to be loved by colors and sounds and creatures and how about each other? I really have a specific request today. Let me tell you, there are definitely moments where the deep, profound love, shared 24/7 happiness I had with my beloved Lily, there are days I wish I never had it, because the loss of it is so severe. But then I check myself, and I wouldn't have missed it for the world. All it really revealed, all this time it really revealed, and I've been here before. It's not the first time that I have not only been with my own loss, but I've been with others, and just horrific loss. You know, loss of a whole community in Syria. You know, loss of family members and the COVID. It's upon us. You know, loss is upon us. Oh, my precious ones, how do we make room for it without fear will bring it on us, that new age crap of thinking if we think of something, it'll happen to us. And then it doesn't give us any room to make space for life. The vitality, the beauty, the wonder, the awesomeness of life. Because our fear of the loss of it is so permeates our emotional territory, everything from not of it being embarrassing to look weak, to being in the get on with it society of, okay, now you've grieved, get on with it. Aren't you going to get another dog? It's like asking me if I wanted to get another child. We've got to stop this. We've got to get to this. Even if we just take time with each other, if we so choose. I mean, it's easier to hide and run and suppress and cope. And only aren't your coping skills not as sufficient as they once were? I think he wants to be on camera. I hope you can hear him because he's really having quite the chat. So this morning I thought, okay, I'm just going to dive into it, and I'm just going to dedicate this space to being with each other, just because we're all here. We don't know each other. We can feel the parts of ourselves that, want to look proper, not want anybody to get too intimate with us. Sorry, I'm just going to try. Not to get too intimate with us, or not to really let people know what's going on, and try not to show the weak parts of ourselves. It's just part of our social upbringing. But I'm dedicating this space, this safe and sacred space, to just seeing if you can see him. He's right there. We'll see. this safe and sacred space to being with loss. Loss of a world as we've known it. Loss of a way of existing as we've known it. Because maybe if loss has a place in the field of the sacred, because it is part of the sacred element of life, that beautiful phrase in Dr. Strange, where this being who had lived for hundreds and thousands of years, I might be over-exaggerating it, she says as she's dying, as she's disintegrating actually, she says, even after all the years I've existed here, I cling to every moment because the physical world is so precious. It's our gift. Our physical life is our gift, not our privilege. Our physical time together is a gift, not an assumption. And moments are changing. In other words, moments are getting more precious. The less we know about our future, the less everything's shifting and changing. The more everything is shifting and changing. The more we find when we look out to figure out what we're going to do and how we're going to take care of ourselves and what life is going to be like, or how are we going to get our bodies to work better, the more it's indecisive, the more there don't seem to be answers flowing back, the more moments will matter. Moments will matter. This is our moment. This is our moment for some of us who know each other and for some of us who are strangers to each other. I want to gift you this moment. Every time we come together, the intimacy of time and how precious it is, and how for human beings there's so little of it. You know, I'm looking out at a mountain that is millions of years old. If I was in the front yard, you'll see trees, especially in California, that outlive us by hundreds of years. I do want to say this little squirrel chipmunk thing is trying to figure out how to get from, I don't know if you can look down, you'll see kind of a white bark in the middle of the picture. You can't see him because it's shielded by the green in front, but he's literally trying to figure out how to get from that white bark tree over to this tree in front of us, but there's no space in between. So he must be working on some kind of problem we don't quite understand. I made the theme for August slowed down time because we are in slowed down time. I couldn't believe, it's absolutely shocking to me to realize I'm still in August. Because when you've had a loss, every day is a week. Time doesn't move fast when you've had a loss, a shock. It moves really, really slow. Really slow. But we're in slowed down time. We're like in that TV reel that is, you know, when the voices begin to slow down. So everything's coming up in our systems, everything that is buried. And it's going to be going on a bit. It's just going to be going on a bit. I really want to thank people for their posts on the group Sacred Site for Rest and Courage. It's keeping those delicate intimacies that you're posting, those delicate intimacies of human existence. Not trying to be against or for anything, not, you know, don't bring anything in that doesn't belong in paradise. We're not fighting for anything in this landscape. We're not against or for anything. We're just going into a space of sacredness and a space of safety. And we're giving that a home, giving it perhaps even a home for ourselves that we're creating, that we're operating on behalf of. That's why I like the virtual world. It's easier to be intimate. It's easier to not be your history, or be thrown by another person's history. It's easier to touch each other. It's easier to hear each other. Because we're making a space, not solving a problem. We're hollowing out a ground. We're making room to move through the next period of time with grace and ease, with each other, just by being here. Nothing required. Nothing required. Just going to move something a minute. Just wanted to say hi. I'm sideways. I think if I try to push this, okay, there we go. Hi. It's an extraordinary moment for me to not have it all together. I'm kind of have it all together kind of person. I have a huge amount of strengths. I came that way. I came that way because I took on what you need a lot of strength for. The frailty of this exquisite creature called a human being. Something stays in my head all the time, especially with just the awesome knowing, having faced death and having had loss at the level I have, how I can look at my life, I can look at the people I care about. I'm not very social. But I know that every moment I spend with them, I am intimate with them. Because I already know how short a time a human life is. I already know what it's like to regret having not been fully being there for someone you've loved, and then they're gone. I've been through the embarrassment of people shying away, even misinterpreting me in my love of them. It's just what's before us. It's not the rules. The only gift a human being truly has is every moment they capture love. Love of a silly animal who's determined to have a chat this morning. Just deep, deep love for the right to be human in all its frailty, because we're a frail species. Do you know I work a lot in understanding things, and one of the saddest thing I ever heard, what would that person be? It would be like someone that studies the human psyche, or not that. Can't think of what they are, but it's sort of like sociologists or people that study cultures, whatever that is. But the theory is of, I think it's sociologists, I don't think I'm right, but whoever I'm trying to say, is that why humanity is so violent is because it's not designed to be that way. And the shame and the guilt and the horror of seeing ourselves be ways that we know we're not designed to be has started a ripple effect through the human system, even in religion. You know, when it says we fell from grace, unfortunately it's like we caused it, not that something happened to us that set something on the path about it. So I think as we move into these times we're in, that in our own privacy, in our own inner world, I think we could reclaim love again. I mean, it's not hard. It can hurt to reclaim love. But I really mean it. My children, even my son that found me again, he's not used to exuberant affection. But I get it all over him. I send videos of music to him and my other kids, and because there's so little time we have together. And I've sat at the bedside of so many dying, especially a few during this period of time, people dying of the COVID. I never told her. Do you think she knows I love her? I wish I'd spent more time with them. And I don't know about each one of you. I don't know what your timeline is. I don't know what you'll be confronting or what you'll be facing. I don't know. I just don't want you to do it alone. I think what makes it hard for us to be here is that somehow we ended up alone. It wasn't ever meant to be that way. My mentor, Brian Christopher, who I think still does consults, you can look him up, Bryan Christopher, definitely not from this planet. Quite a rigorous teacher, believe me. I'm a piece of cake compared to him. But one time when my psyche, because your psyche lives in your cells, lives in your body. And I was really hurting. You know how when your heart hurts and you feel like your guts have been pulled out and you just don't know how you'll make it another day. It can be over a silly thing, like somebody just saying something to you about, you look terrible today. It doesn't take much. We're really so beautifully innocent. And he said to me, the gift of being human is that we can always open our hearts wider. And the more widely you open your heart, the less you feel the constriction of the pain. But maybe we can just play a bit with that, okay? And discover ways. I mean, I actually took this on quite a few years ago. It's funny that it's up again because now it's just sort of a natural part of my palette. But I remember when I knew human beings didn't like to be touched. They misunderstood it sometimes. I knew that human beings didn't like to appear weak. So if you treated them like they were, they could bite you. I knew that human beings didn't have any space for their own pain. And that sometimes it's almost cruel to try to give them that space because they've adapted to keeping it suppressed. So I had to discover strange and mysterious ways. Simple things like handing somebody a Kleenex. But the intent behind it was all the love and caring I had for them and the helplessness of not quite knowing how to take their pain. Because we can't take each other's pain, each other's loss. But the anguish is not the pain and the loss. The anguish is the aloneness. Because we weren't designed to be alone. We weren't even designed to experience death as loss. We weren't. We've just come along, we've just gotten far away from our original design. We've just gotten far away from it. That's all. A lot of stuff's happened to this species. It wasn't nice. Turned us against ourselves. Made us fear what we are. Terrible. They're on my docket. They better hope I never meet them. Enough already for a beautiful species that lives to love. Giving a kid a lollipop, or saying you like his hair when he's crying in the grocery store, or just staring and smiling. I want us to be covert emissaries of love. What do you think? It'll help us. It'll help us to move through the next while. Covert emissaries of love. Then the other part is to let yourself be loved. by anything. And creatures are my expertise. They just, whoever they know me to be, they always come around. They're always there for me. It's a constant. They may be there for you, you don't know. I don't know if you've looked. The wind is also one of my allies, part of my nature, part of my energy field, nature, and fire. I think that's often why my passions rise in the ethers, the elemental ethers of fire and wind. I'm not as comfortable with water, which makes my crying and my sadness and my watery emotions harder for me. Or for others, it's not so hard. And I don't have any earth either. It's all passion and fires. And it's good for you to know what elements are strong within you. And Lily brought me happiness, really 24/7. From the minute we got up, her bouncy little self, and her constant wanting to be right beside me and with me. And she was a with me dog. And now I get to recreate that. I don't know how. But my son Jeremy, who died when he was 5, he left behind a legacy of magic and wonder and just amazing brilliance of seeing worlds beyond the human world. And I got to include that in my repertoire of being alive. So what about your parents or your sisters and brothers or your friends? What do they provide you? What are their ethers? If you describe their emotional palette, is it watery? Is it fiery? Is it windy? Is it earthly? Have you looked? And what's your palette? Air, wispy, fragile, always feeling like you don't have a solid mass. Fiery, don't mess with me. I can't take this. What on earth are people up to? Water, weepy. What is the water one? Oh yeah, you carry your emotions on your sleeve, on your shoulder. And earthy, practical, grounded. Sometimes don't understand why people are weepy or wispy or fiery. I had a conversation with someone I love profoundly. In another lifetime, I was her husband and she was my wife. I was a man. I was a chieftain in an indigenous tribe. I can't remember, Thunder Cloud Throwing Stone, something like that was my name. And it's just been fabulous to come into another lifetime and to maintain that caring. Please don't go weird on me. God, we are so shallow sometimes in our immediate thinking. But she's ground. She's completely earth. I'm completely fire and wind. And I really, really am. And she was talking about how she just ached because she didn't have this wispy, airy spirituality that many of us have. Like I have that too. The wind of spirit, the passion of spirit. Oh, we have another little creature coming. And I started crying. And I said to her, it's so sad to me. Because without you as earth, I wouldn't have any ground. I wouldn't have any place for my wind or my fire to be held. And this amalgamation of we all have to be these cookie cutter things with all the bits and pieces that we think we need to survive, we don't have all of them. Lily was happiness. I'm not really organized for happiness. I'm not organized for misery. A lot of people need to be happy. Up until I met Lily, I just needed to be useful. And but she taught me happiness. So let's expand our nature, okay? Let's try to get out of our I. What's happening to me? What am I going to do? What do I need? And why don't we just look around? And like today, we could do a covert exploration, not having to do anything, but as we walk around today and tomorrow, maybe this whole week, we could walk around seeing how we could secretly love and be loved without anyone knowing what we were doing. And notice how that affected us. Or we could walk around and start looking at people psychologically and go, wow, that's definitely a fiery personality. Wow, that's definitely a watery personality. Wow, and I think they have this and this. We've got to get out of the psychological spectrum. We've got to. We've got to get to the primordial spectrum, which a little bit I just introduced to you. How does the mother see us? How does the primordial mother see us? Do you really think she sees us as an I with our issues? No, she sees us as life force energy. She sees us as part of her magic. So expand your parameters a little bit, okay? Try to tone down that I thing. That psychological structure of thinking of I keeps you stuck between your ears. And you don't see the world around you. You don't smell the roses. You don't ouch with the thorn. My friend's back from yoga. I guess it's time for me to go. And for God's sake, don't hate your fragility, your innocence, your tenderness, your instability. Give it a place, okay?